some documentaries in regards that when you go to a certain level that the powers elite, the Hollywood elite, that ultimately they sacrifice and you have to give up a life or a loved one to kind of that when you're at that level is in regards of you always hear these I know Kanye West, I think his mother died mysteriously, and I think I can't think of some few. I think Magic Jackson had a death in the family. You have, and I have seen a documentary in regards to this. Is actually they giving up their loved ones for the gods, if you will, the powers that be, to kind of either stay afloat or excel in the Hollywood world. Is there any truth to that from your perspective? Is that highly exaggerated, or is it that's based on true understanding within the Hollywood world? If you want to make it to some, within the secret occult society within Hollywood, you also may have to do that as well.
Well, on a personal level, I can't attest to that. I don't know. On a personal level, I've never come into encounter any friends of mine or cohorts or anything or co-stars or anything like that I've actually known to make that type of strike up that type of deal or whatnot or move forward with anything like that. But research-wise, it seems to make sense to me. A documentary that I'm working on now that happens to be one of the categories that I'm debating whether placing in there. But to this point, I find some truth about it. I find it very interesting that many actors, if you really search into their background, highly renowned actors, you will find a traumatic death, unusual death that you'll find normally in their immediate family. But then I've also found others where I couldn't find anything. So to answer your question, I think that there's a possibility behind it. So far, in my research, I found it to be probably about 80% accurate. But I can't entirely just say, yes, that is the case.
Okay, and also, you always hear these Hollywood deaths, in these royal. I know a few years ago there was a big arm in arms about Queen Diana, Princess Diana died mysteriously. There was rumors that it was really a hit and things of that nature. But even within the hip hop world, you got Run DMC, the one of the members of the Run DMC, also of course the Biggie Smalls, Tupac. What's been your experience in that world? What you have heard? These things been basically have been some gang related hits, or there's more to that than meets the eyes, if you will.
Again, that's something that I can't really attest to because I haven't on a one-on-one basis dealt with anything like that. To where I can speak on that from evidence. So regarding these deaths, I don't know if it's coincidental or if it's attributed to some sort of occultic rituals that are taking place. Now, what I think happened, with Tupac, in the situation of Tupac, I find that highly interesting that when you listen to his music or his past records, and a lot of these artists, they'll all tell you that they sold their souls, to the devil. Just about 95% of them, all of them. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting with him is he spoke about wanting to reclaim it, to get it back. And he, Tupac was very flippant, at the mouth. He really didn't, so he started to reveal some of the things that were going on and exposing some of the individuals, okay, in the industry at that time. And I think that's what got him in trouble. I think that they saw, he even said in one of his songs that they were willing to conduct a deal with him, that if he were quiet and they would provide him with enough money and a mansion off in, I think it was Brazil, matter of fact, if he would be quiet. And shortly thereafter, he brought out more materials, and, shortly thereafter, he was dead. But,
Tupac, other than just, of course, liking his music, I was a big fan of Tupac. But I believe that he struggled. He had two sides, and I remember that his mother produced or was involved heavily with a documentary and that she put together in regards of after his death. I forget the name of the documentary. It was a very good one. And one thing that I noticed, and what I noticed about within the documentary, aside that I saw about Tupac, or I understood he was a leader and he had a leadership quality about him that was remind me of a Malcolm X, remind me of a, and I know his mother was heavily involved with the Black Panther Party, and I believe that some of that rub up on him, and I believe because he was in the industry, in the highest level of industry, I think he was a threat. And I truly believe if Tupac would have still been alive, he would have been a more mature man. I think the whole gangster thing would have, he would have been, that would have been behind him. And it would have been interesting to see a brother like that to maybe stumble into a video of the gathering in Christchurch and what he would think of it. I think he would be either a thoughtful working brother, just reading some of his writings and just listen to his lyrics. If you really listen to his lyrics, this brother was he was really a deep brother. And I believe because he was caught up into the gangster lifestyle, and I think he wanted more, but he was so caught up into it that he couldn't get out of it. And he was young. When you're young, you so it would have been interesting to see him develop and where he would have gone. And you're right, it would have been, he would have definitely been shined from Hollywood and from that world, because I think if he would have continued in the highest sense of spirituality, if you will, or just, revolution kind of, attitude that he had, and that was part of him that we never saw until, but I was able to see a glimpse of that in this documentary. It was very interesting to see that. And I think you're right. I think one of the biggest fear that, especially within Hollywood, and I have seen, and what is definitely missing, and you don't see it, but it is not an issue that is, I don't believe the resources are there in regards of capital. I mean, you have, rappers now making within the billions. I mean, Puff Daddy, you got, Jay-Z and 50 Cent. I don't think it's the issue of the money now. I think it's the issue is that the wrong people are being successful, and they're not thinking about because I'm a big believer that yes, I think sometimes I know about the Illuminatis, and I know about the industry and how you make it, but I think we put too much influence. And is another requirement a funny example which I always stuck with me when the Wizard of Oz, when the wizard, everybody thought it was this big guy and this powerful person, but when you turn the veil, it's this little guy messing around with different machines and different buttons, trying to manipulate people's minds. So too, I think a lot of that I think is that we put too much emphasis on, if we do our own thing, they're gonna shut it down and they're gonna come after us. And I think it's that slave mentality. I don't know if you know that still we have to shake up among us, and I'm seeing that now, especially within the Gathering Christ Church and just people coming together and just being proud and say that I'm a Hebrew and don't feel weird to say it or and people we're but that fear is still there. But I think is the perception of power sometimes is more powerful than the actual power. So what's your opinions of that in regards of in your experience?
Well, I like to use Romans 8:31 in regards to that. If God be for us, who can be against us? Of course, God being the most higher, I shall higher. But, when these things, I just like to go back to the scriptures because, of course, we have moments where we tend to shy away. And going kind of back to the whole Tupac thing, and it's unfortunate that the young brother died so early on because, I'm 32 years old, and heck, when I was 25 years old, I don't even want to go over what I was doing back then.
Right. Exactly.
But another thing that I find interesting with the brothers that have come and found the truth is that they were always struggling. So, there were two sides to me, always. There was that side that always felt conviction, always know, hey, you're not doing right. Then there was that other side where, like, well, I just kind of got to get down, got to play the white man's game, And what I mean by that, like, hey, it is a game, predominantly, they are the Esau is ruling, has dominion on the earth right now. So there are certain ways that you have to play the game of life, and if you want to get ahead financially. So we find ourselves maybe compromising, with some things, and I found myself compromising even in roles. I mean, there were certain roles that I've done that I'm not happy about, today. But then on the flip side, I see that, okay, well, people will come up to me and I can kind of be more of an example now. And unfortunately, it takes, especially our people, okay, and when I mean our people, I mean, quote unquote minorities as a whole. It's like if you're dealing with anything in entertainment, you're more glorified in that versus having a master's degree or a PhD in something more noteworthy like even a teacher, But now I also know the education system is wicked and so forth, but there are still ways in which you can use your art and your gift and your craft to help stimulate the body of Yeshaya. But I think as a whole we need to become more individualized from like secularly speaking, individualized where you say, okay, look, I'm my own person. I don't have to do this in order for this individual to like me or in order to gain this position. But then synonymous with that, a part of, on a spiritual level, we need to be one in our thinking and not be fearful and speak boldly about what we know is on our heart, and not be, like I said, at first I was going to come on here and be anonymous because I said, look, I don't, I still rub elbows with some people in the industry, and I don't. But hey, look, when it's all said and done, I want to be before the Father, and He said,